Okay, everybody, welcome to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, as well as Mixing Music Analog. And here on our YouTube channels, and this week I got a really special guest for our podcast. I have Chris Yetter from Audio-Scape Engineering. You guys know about Audio-Scape if you've been following me for the last couple of months, because we've been doing some unboxings and we've been doing some videos and some sound examples. And Chris has been so gracious to take time out of his busy day to chat with us a little bit about Audio-Scape. So if you have not seen the videos on the unboxing and the sound examples on the opto compressor, the links will be in the description box below. And by the time you guys watch this video, you'll also see links for the V-Comp Plus. You'll see an unboxing video and a sound example video as well. Check out those links, and then all the Audio-Scape stuff will be in the description box below, so you could go check out what these guys have to offer. But Chris, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm really excited. This is really cool because now I get to meet the man that we're talking about, all these wonderful compressors and stuff that you guys make. So I'm really glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having us, or me, us, the company, all of us. No, thank you so much.
Really. Oh, you're very welcome. You talk about the company, and that's the thing I want to talk about. So the thing that and I mentioned this in the unboxing videos when we did the opto compressor, and I talked a little bit about, and this topic comes up a lot on my channel. We talk about hardware all the time, hybrid particularly, right? And there's lots of companies that kind of do in the same ballpark of what you do. And what I loved about your company, once one of my students turned me on to it, was really the story. And the more I got to chat with you on email, the story of the company and kind of your philosophy and how you do this stuff, I think is what drew me to you guys. So tell me a little bit about Audioscape. When was it started? How did this whole thing happen? Give me a little history lesson on your company.
A brief history lesson. Okay. Yeah. Well, we started in 2016. Before that, I had a guitar pedal company actually for about 5 years. So I would just sit there and just drive myself crazy, testing transistors, for hours on end. I was like, it just wasn't sustainable doing that in the way I was doing it. And I started developing what became our bus compressor around 2015, 2016, just single car garage, I think back then I had like my best friend's younger brother working with us, and it just, sold one compressor. I think the first compressor we sold had like inkjet water slide decals on it. It didn't even have silk screen. Wow. And it would just take the money from that. And then, after that sells, now we can finally have enough money to afford to build cases, properly, and, sell it for a decent price, but still, give people a good deal. And the idea was, I really liked the idea that somebody could, get a really good budget piece of gear that's actually made to a standard, that is, 4 times the cost. So that's sort of where this was born out of, this sort of ethos.
And what year did you guys what year does Audioscape Engineering start making stuff and selling stuff? I mean, what year did you guys kind of really officially form?
We dipped our toes in the water in 2016, and a little bit in 2017. We even started doing like the opto comps a little bit. And then really 2018, we LLC'd, we went really hard, on it, and then actually went to our first NAMM in 2019. So it's just been a slow progression.
Years.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I didn't want to open the floodgates too early if we couldn't supply. And so, that seems like a recipe for failure, in my opinion, when you have too many people coming at you and you can't supply them with a great product. So I purposefully let it fly under the radar for a little while. And we just kept building slowly, organically. And now I feel like we're to a point where we can supply. We have a great crew, and, this company was built, kind of the way you think most companies are built nowadays. And, that's, I guess, not really what happens with audio gear nowadays. So that was an eye opener for me as well. So.
Right. And so your company, you're out of Florida, right? And I've seen your YouTube. I believe you have a video on YouTube, and I'll link that below as well. It's a little behind the scenes of your company. And again, what surprised me, although we chatted in email, I didn't when you said, I said, it's a small little mom and pop shop, but it really is a small little shop, right? You have a handful of people that work in this nice little facility, and you build all these things one at a time by hand, right? I mean, that's basically
it,
right? That's the video. And so again, I'll link it in the description so people can check it out. It's actually really cool. it is the, you know, it is the epitome of, oh, this is a small mom and pop shop that really hand makes these. A lot of times companies talk about how we make everything by hand and it's hand wired, and they use all those cool words to justify the cost. And then you find out the thing is mass manufactured, you know, in Indonesia somewhere. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this is really a small company that hand makes these things one at a time, right? And that's basically what you do.
As advertised, exactly.
Just as advertised. And
that's what that video shows, you know.
Yep. And I think, and I think it's a good thing that you said you try to fly under the radar, because if you, I guess the temptation for any company would be, let's just open the floodgates and sell as many of these freaking things as we can. But then, and this is part of the thing that we talk about on my channel and some of the dialogue you and I had early on, which was when you get to that point, now, when you're trying to make a product that is, like you said, a third or a fourth of the cost of the real thing, quote unquote, and you're flooded with orders, you know, what has to be sacrificed to be able to fill those orders, right? And so, and you don't want to do that. And I think that's a great thing that you're like, no, we got to build them right. And let's talk about the components, because that's one of the things that you were talking to me about on email, which is like, you know, we have limited supply, right? Because when you go to your website, most times, every time I've been on your website, everything is sold out, and that you have small batches. And this is what I tell people on the channel: if you want something from Audioscape, you have to continually check, and they usually have a limited amount of runs on certain pieces, depending on components, which we'll talk about, right? And you have to kind of get your order in because they're gone the same day, right? I mean, pretty much. So how do you deal with the components? I know we're in the middle of a pandemic and we have a worldwide shortage on everything from toilet paper to the parts that go inside of your products. But just even in good times, what is that process kind of like? I mean, because you're trying to get the same exact components that are in the, let's say, the opto compressor, which is the LA2A. I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but I can say that because I don't work for Audioscape. So, you know, do you try to get the exact components that are in there, or something comparable? How do you deal with that?
As much as possible. It's going to different sources, you know. Sometimes it's a surplus place, you know, like one of the surplus places we buy from is like West Florida Components, you know. Or there's like, just a lot of parts we can get from Mouser, you know. That's super handy. I have my cart safe, but a lot of times things are out of stock, especially this year. So it's been a challenge. It's been a lot more time to find the parts. And then there's, you know, a finite supply of new old stock tubes too. So that's always a big challenge. Transformer manufacturers, you know, our transformer manufacturers out of like St. Louis, and they, you know, they've been having a hard time getting laminations for the output transformers for our opto comps that you mentioned. Right. So that's one reason why we've been, you know, only selling like 4 or 5 on each sales night, which the sales nights are Wednesdays and Saturdays, by the way, at 8 p.m. So,
okay, good. And it's on your Instagram. I see you post on the Instagram, and then probably on Facebook and stuff, you say, hey, we got these 10 units or whatever it is. And then go get them. Right. Okay. So that's good. So that's Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's when you release whatever you built. What is it pretty much whatever you built for that week or the week prior?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's about 20, maybe it's up to 22 now of us here on site, all building this stuff. And we just divert resources to whatever we have in stock. And luckily we have a wide product base. I guess we sort of inadvertently just from excitement of, you know, I love these products and I always want to do new products. We have enough products that we can sustain ourselves, you know, through the supply chain shortages by just diverting resources to, this week we can make B3As. This week we can make, you know, DI boxes. So it always, it sort of keeps everybody busy, and it keeps the morale up too. So.
Right. So that's to keep them gainfully employed, which is important. So the other thing I guess I didn't realize, so recently, all your components, are they all sourced out of the US? Is that
pretty much? I know, granted, Mouser, I'm sure, sources stuff from, you know, authorized, you know, distribution and things like that. But yeah, pretty much all. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Every now and then there's like, I think there's a transformer used from the UK for one output transformer, you know? Right. So yeah, surplus places mostly. Yeah, that's there's so many parts in my mind right now. I'm drawing a blank as far as like every single location we purchase from, but
a lot of
yeah,
them you say are from the U.S. distributors, which is
oh
really
yeah.
cool. Which is really cool. So do you are you the person that just goes, what do you just search the internet looking for this stuff? I mean, or do you have a person like a purchasing team member that's out there just surfing the world looking for these internal components?
Luckily, the last few months, I have gotten a little bit of help in that area, but it's been mostly me all these years, just searching for components. And yeah, a lot of people don't realize when they buy from a boutique company, which is what we are, you know, we, even though we sell for budget prices, you're really buying what the designer, you know, wants to put in there. And I take that really serious. And every single component's been ear tested that goes in. And so it's been a dance, you know, trying to find everything. And, you know, DigiKey has it in stock, you know,
right. They got two of these and we need two of those. Right. So you talk, a little bit. So the testing, you mentioned the testing. So do you have we'll talk about the OptoComp because that's the one that the video people have seen so far. Do you have like a real LA2A that sits in your shop and when you build yours, you test them and do ear test? How do you, I mean, I know, and again, for anyone, I know on mixing music analog, people understand this, but home recording made easy to people who who don't really use hardware, they're mostly in the box. We got to understand that if you took two of any compressor made by the same manufacturer, made on the same day, by the same person, because the analog has different componentry in them. And even though there's tolerances and such, those two units are never going to be identical. No two pieces of analog gear are identical. Even if you were to buy, you know, an 1176 from Universal Audio from 15 years ago, and then bought a brand new one today and put them on the bench together, they're going to inherently sound a little different because of the age of the components, maybe some of the types of components that were available at the time of when the second one was manufactured. So they're all going to sound a little bit different. So let's make people understand that. But when you do your testing process, is that how you do it? I mean, or if you just, at this point, you know what they're supposed to sound like, or do you crack open or put a real one on the bench and then put yours next to it and go, we have to get within this tolerance range to say that's what an opto compressor is supposed to be? How do you do that?
That's an excellent question. Well, back when we developed the opto compressor, I did not have the money for a vintage, you know, LA2A. Right. So I literally built one point to point with original transformers with new old stock tubes. And then I sat and tweaked and made sure everything was right. And that was the God unit. So after that, now, luckily we have a little bit more resources. So newer units, I'm able to buy originals. But back then for that particular one, that's what I did. And I did that for the first few. As far as the tolerances, they are wide, you know, 5 to 10% resistors, you know, capacitors are 20%, but that's what makes it what it is. So there is sometimes, like you're mentioning, things that outliers, things that don't make it. And that's what building in small batches helps with, because that way you can be like, no, this is not good enough, you know, as opposed to having like 200 of something and just, let it all go, you know? Right. And I literally, there's Post-it notes on every single unit that I take. And one of the major variances, for instance, on the OptoComp or any T4B optical compressor is the speed of the photocells. So it can recover the way the needle recovers. It can recover slow or fast.
Absolutely.
I'll have a range, just, you know, it's very unscientific, but it'll be like fast, you know, medium fast, medium slow, and slow. And I'll like sort of go with that range. So if somebody buys a pair, I like to know that we can sort of have them matched unlinked. So, you know, there'll be two medium slow T4Bs, you know, that act the same way, where the knobs are kind of in the same position, you know, whether they're unlinked. And then if you want to link them, you can, you know, but that way you can have either or, you know. I feel that that's important for the user. So we're going to always do that. Even on our EQPs, we take down the volume of every single one instead of adding like a output fader, like some people do, you know. Everything you add takes something away. So basically we, you know, just sit there and we write down the volume on every single EQP. And then that way we can match it that way. And then of course I listen to the high bands and make sure those match too. So, right. So so it sounds like it's a pretty involved process. I mean, it probably takes as long to do that it does to make the thing. I would imagine, right? Finishing. Yes. The finishing, but that's what we, you know, this is a labor of love.
Right.
That's what we want people to know. Everyone here loves this. Everyone that's building this stuff, you can see it in the video. They're into audio. They're audio
Yeah.
people.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're musicians and audio people, and they understand what they understand what they're really making. They're not just building maybe from a drawing or something, or just like a typical manufacturer where the people have no idea what the stuff is. They're just building to a work instruction. It seems like your folks they know what they're building, and they understand what this is and what it should sound like and how it should look or how it should behave when it's in use. And that's awesome. I mean, what do you find is, like, other than the part supply shortage, what do you find is the biggest challenge? And I know you hear this because I said this to you. You're making replicas. Is that the right word that you like to use? I mean, replicas of vintage classic gear. Is that fair? Or
that's fair to a degree. It's really our take on classic recording equipment is really what we strive for. And it's finding that best version of that,
right,
that vintage piece. And, working within the tolerances, like we mentioned earlier, to make sure that it sounds within that range of that best piece. And then we add some tasteful things that make sense. Like, we were actually the first company to put, to my knowledge, that HF control that was on the back panel on the original LA2A on the front panel.
Right. That's right.
All the manufacturers do that. They sort of, by flying under the radar, saw that we were doing that. But so little tasteful upgrades like that, that don't get in the way of the aesthetic, but they add, handy features and more usability,
Yeah, the aesthetic is really cool because, I mean, they're a dead on, look to the original. I mean, they look like like you wouldn't know if you didn't know. You would think it is the real thing. And I guess a lot of companies do that. I guess I don't know how companies can do that, but I guess that's for another question. It's how can you get away with doing that? But that's neither here nor there. But because I can't be the only one when I first contacted you to say, hey, there's lots of companies that kind of do what you're trying to do. And some of them do them better than others. And I've tested a lot of them, and a lot of them are crap, to be honest with you. Do you find it really challenging to overcome that? I mean, from a business perspective, like, or because you've only been around a little bit, even though you got a good reputation, but you're still pretty new to the game, I guess, right? In the big scheme of things, do you find overcoming, for lack of a better word, the naysayers or the people that are saying, wait a minute, how can this can't be anything close to what the real thing is for a fraction of the price? Or how do you just deal with that in general from a business perspective?
It is difficult, but one thing I try to let people know when they ask that question, I just got that question today. So it's what they don't realize is they just see the final ticket price, and they don't realize that we're not selling through a dealer. So the cost is going to be, a considerable amount more if it was through a dealer. And then they'd probably be like, oh, that price makes sense for that product. I think one reason why we've been successful is by dealing directly with our customers and hearing the feedback throughout the years, really just refining these products, like, hey, maybe you should do this way. And, I think one of the first things I sold, someone's like, why is there no serial number sticker on this? Back in 2015, I was like, yeah, I should probably put serial number stickers on this stuff, know? So having that direct line of communication with customers has really helped us. But going back to overcoming, people see value, in the price tag, like what you're saying, it's definitely been difficult, but there's been some, definitely some bigger names that have no issues with the price tag and grabbing this piece of gear, lately, for sure. So
I've not heard a single bad thing about an Audioscape unit yet. And I've surfed around. I mean, I will say I've yet to see anyone write a bad review or a mediocre video or say, it's kind of, I've not heard that yet. I've only heard really positive things about it, which is a credit to what you guys do. Because there are other companies that, that make this sort of stuff. You could find, 15, 20% of the reviews are kind of, or the quality or the warranty or whatever it is,
and they push them down to the bottom of the review list.
Yeah. So you can find those, but I haven't seen that any of your stuff, which is really great. I mean, I was because people have asked me since I've had the Opto, how do you like it? Does it sound like an LA2A? So, well, of course it sounds like an LA2A. No, I don't have a real LA2A here, but I've worked with enough of them that, again, like we said, they're all going to sound a little different. but it is that sound. It is without question that sound. I mean, as soon as I heard it, I went, yeah, that, you know, even the way you said the needle recovers on the meter, even that is true to what I'm used to seeing. And again, I know they're all a little bit different. And like the LA2A, there were 3 different versions of it. You know, there was the silver, the gray face, different attack and release times. There were different versions of it. And what you did is you tried to make what you consider to be the best of the 3 versions in one package, like kind of right in that middle. And I think it sounds fantastic. And now we just got the V comp that you sent over that we're going to listen to next week. And I got to imagine that thing probably sounds amazing as well. So I don't know how the hell you do it, but you definitely do it. And I've tested enough of these replicas or like, you know, and I've tested a lot of them, and most of them are just, they're okay. You know, they're okay. Usually the build quality is kind of chintzy or a little cheaper. It doesn't have that, where yours has that real rugged feel to it and the real industrial military grade knobs and switches. I mean, as soon as you pick it up, I think that V comp weighs 17 pounds or something ridiculous like that. As soon as I picked it up, I said, that's what a real stay level is. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it looks like it feels like it, and I'm sure it sounds like it. It's really great. Now, do you have any, maybe you can or can't say anything. Do you have any like new I mean, there's a couple of products I would love to ask you about off air that, you know, if you're ever in the design stage. But do you have anything new that's coming that you might be able to talk about, or do you have what do you have coming that's new?
Well, this year we plan to release 4 new products. We've already released 2.
Okay.
And the next release is actually behind me right here. It's our new all analog spring reverb. I don't know if you can see it in here, but it's the XL305R. We build all the spring assemblies on site from scratch. This is actually one of the spring assemblies right here, opened up in raw.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, what's really cool is like most spring assemblies just have like uncut springs. This has like 4 sleds, you can see here, with 3 springs each, and every single spring is all tuned together, like cut and tuned to a certain millisecond. So they're all working in concert together to basically create an what's called an equally tempered sound. So,
right. And when is one of those, I see some built back there. Are they for sale yet? Or are those you stocking up? What are you doing? What are you doing with those?
Got a lot of questions on that this week, because we just dropped sound clips too. But October 31st, Halloween, we're dropping them.
Oh, so, wow, great. And what's the asking price, and what's the street price on that?
It's $19.99.
Nice. You know? And what are your other products? What are the other 3? Can you talk about them?
Oh yeah, well, we've already released the 76D, you know, which is like the most popular revision of the 1176. And then there is I believe it was a V comp plus shortly after that. So you already have that one. That was the second one that came out I think in June. And then this is 3rd. And then up 4th, we have the Golden 58 tube preamp, which would be near the end of the year around Christmas time.
Cool.
And that's a 2-channel tube preamp, all original circuit, lots of like just big, huge caps, separate line inputs to run your mix through it. Really going to be really cool and useful.
Really, really cool. And then I'm sure you got other stuff planned for probably next year as well, which is really great. Well, I think you got a great thing there. I love the story, and I just love the whole concept that you have. And I'm really happy that one of my students has turned me on to. They bought one of your, I think it was the Opto. That was what they bought, and that's what they told me. Don't go buy an LA2A. Call this guy. I'm like, all right, let me go check these out. And I'm glad I did. You got a really great product, and I love the story. I love the company. The packaging of your product's great. The unboxing is top notch. I mean, it's really, really good. And it does. I didn't think of it. It makes a lot of sense because you deal direct. That's one way the pricing can be much lower. Like you can't buy your stuff at Sweetwater, for example, or somewhere like that. Maybe one day in the future, but right now you do everything direct, right? It's all direct.
That's what we prefer to do, even in the future. We've had some dealer requests for years, actually, but we like dealing directly with our customers. And, you know, if there is a servicing need, then you just have a direct line of communication. And, you know, then it makes it easier, you know, to get any potential issues resolved instead of having a middleman, you know?
Yep. And I will say, I mean, like I've said in the other Opto video, I emailed you originally. I think you got right back to me. One of your team members, she got back to me, and within like 24 hours, it was like within a day or so. And that's rare with companies, that you can do that when you, and I tell everyone, especially when you're buying stuff online, buy it from a trusted source. You know, you can get great service. If you're buying from a big third-party dealer, I always tell everyone, go to Sweetwater. If they don't have it at Sweetwater, find companies where you can have that one-on-one connection. So if there's a problem, because you're making electronic devices, there will be somewhere down the line, there may be an issue, but you can get it serviced and taken care of right away. And by the way, what's the warranty on your stuff? What's it typical 1 year?
It's a typical 2 year actually, but we're not, I probably shouldn't say this, sticklers for warranties and things like that. We would rather just have it working. So lots of things, if they're 3-4 years old, we'll just fix them and just send
replace a part or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
We don't charge like a servicing fee for it or anything.
Well, that's really cool. Most places do
honestly, that's what we're about. We want it just working, as long as possible for people. And that's, but we just put that 2 years sound standard. Okay. But no, we're going to take care of people,
Well, most companies are only 1 year. So the fact that you do 2 years is great. And like you said, if you're, again, it's a good mentality to have. If something goes wrong at 2 years and 6 months, we'll put a new part in it. Just send us the unit back. I mean,
I'm an end user. I love this stuff. So we basically take the ethos of, we're going to treat people how we would like to be treated. It's really simple, So
great. It's great. And again, you make the stuff's good and it has to sound good, but I'm all about that being equal. I'm all about the company and the service, because as you're a small business, and I tell people I'm the same way. I'm a small business. I answer every single email, every single comment. Everyone asks me, well, where's your assistant? I said, there is no assistant here. It's me. When you communicate, you're communicating with me. Because again, I think that's important. It shows that the company's got good integrity. And even as you get bigger, I know that's more and more difficult, but the fact that you are involved hands-on with that stuff, and you did that with me and you didn't know who I was. So, I mean, you just did that because that's what you do. And I think that's great. Is there anything else you want to mention? Anything you want to talk about? Anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you that you want to get out to all of our listeners?
Well, we do have, like I mentioned, that spring reverb. That's why we're showing it off here behind me. There will be a demo video on this next week. So definitely check our socials for that. And also the SoundCloud clips are up. If you're just curious what it sounds like, I don't think there's anyone really making reverbs like this that I'm aware of really this century. So I think it's kind of cool and unique. And I know a lot of reverbs are in the box these days, but there's something to this that's really interesting and unique. And I actually worked with the original designer of this XL305. Who designed this like 40 years ago, and we just completely over the last 4 years revamped this. It was like a huge R&D process. So
right. I think most reverbs in the hardware are mostly digital today, right? Even I don't know of anyone that's putting springs in a unit like that.
Yeah, and they're not, and like I mentioned, it's not just like cookie cutter springs. It's an equally tempered spring system that all works together in concert. So it's basically, it's the same effect of opening a piano lid, opening the damper, and singing into the strings. That's what that spring assembly is,
right?
Which is really unique and different. So we're excited. It's a really kind of a groundbreaking design, even though it was introduced in the early 80s, and it didn't really, it sort of had like a cult status. And it's the way we're doing it now. We're just super excited to bring it back. So.
Yeah, that's cool. That's unique. And that'll sound different than any other kind of digital box or even a plug-in that you can do. I mean, unless you have an old guitar amp, no one has real, spring reverb anymore.
Yeah, and those just have cut springs just laying there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
It's not so boingy with this. They're cut and they're tensioned,
Right. So you can use them on, I would imagine, many different sources. You think of spring reverb, you think maybe guitar, but I can also, like you said, piano or drum rooms or something like that.
Exactly.
Right. Something where you can get something that sounds a little different than just a typical digital reverb. Right.
Exactly.
Which is really, really cool. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Chris, for joining us again. Everyone, all the links will be in the description box below for all the socials. Audioscape Engineering's website. Again, what'd you say? Wednesdays and Saturdays is when everything goes on sale.
Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Eastern Daylight Time.
So you got to get your orders in, and they ship direct. And again, make sure you check out all the videos below for the opto compressor and the VComp Plus. And then I'm sure by the time you watch, there'll be other Audioscape stuff I'm sure we're going to do, because I got a couple of things I definitely want to add to my rig as well. And I want to test out some more stuff as things become available. So stay on the lookout for that. And if you have any questions, leave some comments below. I'll be checking the comments. And if I have anything that I need to forward over to Chris, I'll do that, and we'll get you the answers that you guys need. So until the next time, I've been Dave with Home Recording Made Easy and Mixing Music Analog. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.